What up, y'all? You're listening to Sports Talk with Tropp, and I'm your host, Katie Tropp. Well, here we are, y'all. Sports fan purgatory. That time of year in February when it's the week after the Super Bowl. We have the All-Star break in the NBA this weekend. Pitchers and catchers did report this week. Spring training is pretty much underway, but I mean, that's spring training. Nothing's really going on. There's really nothing going on sports-wise. So that's why I call it sports fan purgatory, just because it's just kind of those. There's 2 times a year when it happens. Now in February, and then also in July, right before football season starts. It's just a time where nothing really goes on. So I decided today we're just going to do topics from each sport and just talk about what's going on in sports these days, since we don't really have a lot to go off of this weekend. And just for the record, I will not be watching the NBA All-Star game this weekend because that to me has just turned into straight trash over the years. I mean, including like the slam dunk competition and the 3-point stuff. It's like it all used to be fun to watch, and now it's like we're lucky if we even get 5 star players to even participate in this thing anymore. And I'm not talking about the ones who are suffering injuries. I'm talking about the ones who just don't participate. And it's been going on for many years, but the NBA All-Star game has turned pretty irrelevant. As a matter of fact, the NFL Pro Bowl, too, it's the same thing. It kind of feels like All-Star games have just turned into trash, and they might want to get rid of them because they're just such a waste of time. But yeah, I won't be watching that. I don't enjoy it. It has not been fun in years, especially because, like I said, the slam dunk competition, you're lucky if you even know who one of the players is, let alone all 5 of them. And yeah, sometimes they come up with creative dunks, but it's just like, okay, I don't want to see Nobody McGee winning the slam dunk competition. It's just boring as shit. So I won't be watching that this weekend. So we won't be talking about that. So let's talk about some second half storylines in the NBA. So that's where we're going to start. Like I said, I'm going to break it down with NBA storylines, then baseball storylines, then NFL storylines, and then the top 5 fights coming up this year. So let's start off with the NBA and some second half storylines that I've got for us coming up this season. So first, the number one storyline, in my opinion, is Jason Tatum coming back this season? You know, he suffered the Achilles injury during the playoffs last year. So it kind of feels like it's a stretch for him to come back. But from what I'm reading, 1 week it's positive, like he's going to come back at some point this year. And then the next week he's not coming back this year. Or then the next week it's like, well, maybe he can make the playoffs. And then it's like, nah, he's not coming back this year. So it kind of feels like nobody really knows if he's coming back at all this year. But if he does come back, even if he just comes back for the playoffs, that could definitely help out the Boston Celtics because, they are the second best team right now in the Eastern Conference when you're taking a look at the records. So they're maintaining their position. They're not really having any issues. But if he gets right back in it, I mean, obviously it's going to take him some time to work his way back from the injury. But he definitely could be something definitely could be a positive help to them just because they definitely need somebody else besides Brown out there on the court. But at the same time, like I said, who knows if we're going to see him? I don't think they should rush him out there. You definitely do not want to rush him out there. But I did read this week, it actually was positive news where it was saying that he's been playing 5-on-5 and could potentially be called up to the G League here pretty soon. So, I mean, it's like if he's getting called up to the G League and he plays well, then that means he's probably going to be playing here in the next month or 2. And I feel like ideally, that's what the Celtics are hoping for. That hopefully he can get back and play towards the end of the regular season, kind of start dusting the rust off, because inevitably he is going to have rust. An Achilles injury is not some little bitch injury. It's one of the most difficult injuries to come back from, and he's a basketball player. You have to understand, they are using their legs the entire game. And not just running back and forth. When you're a shooter, you are using your legs to shoot the ball. So an Achilles injury is a difficult injury. So it's going to be interesting to see if he comes back at all. But if he does come back, He's definitely going to be something positive for the Celtics that they definitely will need for a playoff run this year. Now, speaking of the Celtics, the second topic I have for my NBA second half storylines is, can anyone else beat the Detroit Pistons in the Eastern Conference? Because so far, this first half has been all Detroit all day. That's it. Nobody's come close. Nobody can compete. Detroit beats everybody too. They beat the good teams. They beat the bad teams. They'll beat the champions. They just have no really major holes with this team. They're great offensively. They're great defensively. They're just a really solid team. And when you look at the rest of the Eastern Conference, you go, the Celtics, like I just talked about, they don't have Jason Tatum. So I don't know if they're even going to play well with Jason Tatum against this Detroit Pistons team, let alone without Jason Tatum. Couldn't they maintain a 7-game series? I don't know. Then you look at the New York Knicks. They have been so up and down this season. They have their good moments. They have their bad moments. But you just look at them and you're like, is this a championship level team? I don't know. I don't want to say no because, the Eastern Conference is pretty much wide open. If Detroit happens to just shit the bed in the playoffs, that really opens everything up, especially for the Knicks. And all they got to do is just kind of play subpar basketball at that point. But the Knicks are not playing subpar basketball, by the way. They're playing very solid basketball. It's just when you compare them to the Detroit Pistons, who have played very consistent basketball all season, the Knicks have been anything but consistent. They've been up, they've been down, they've had winning streaks, they've had losing streaks, they've had injuries, but they've put it together at certain points as well. And so I just look at the Eastern Conference and I'm like, is there anybody that can compete with the Detroit Pistons really down the stretch? And like I said, I feel like the only way Detroit falls apart is if they themselves shit the bed. It's not going to be somebody else beats them. It's going to be that they fall apart. But we'll see. There's a whole second half to go. Then the next topic I have for the NBA second half storylines, who will win the Western Conference? Because the Western Conference is the exact opposite of the Eastern Conference. It is stacked to the brim with talented teams, with strong teams, and real talk, the top 3 teams in the West, you can really make a case for them to be champions. So first place right now is, of course, the defending champions, the Oklahoma City Thunder. Even without SGA, they're winning. They're playing solid basketball. So I don't know, can't count this team out. But then right behind them is the San Antonio Spurs. They're only 4 games behind. They definitely are playing championship level basketball, but they also are very inexperienced. And that could come into play once we hit the playoffs. Then right behind them, the Denver Nuggets, who are 7 games behind. They've already won a championship with a lot of members of this team. And they're just a damn good team, offensively, defensively. And you've got the triple-double king, Nikola Jokic playing great. You've got Murray playing great. So I don't know, man. This team is championship level as well. Then you've got the Houston Rockets, who are 7.5 games behind. I don't know if I can put them in the championship level category just yet, because they have had their up and down moments. Plus, they're not that great on the defensive side of the ball. But then again, great offensively and do dominate the paint. And then right behind them, you have my Los Angeles Lakers. They're 8 games behind. And it's just the injuries and the inconsistencies. I can't put them on the championship level just yet. There is a whole second half left to go, though. Anything can happen. With Oklahoma City Thunder, this SGA injury, what if it becomes something that lingers down the stretch? That's a big deal for them. Now, they've actually overcome all their injury issues so far this season. So I don't really see Oklahoma City letting loose their grip. But then right behind them, you've got the Spurs, who have been kicking the Thunder's ass all season long. And they've just been playing great basketball all season long. And they just play excellent team basketball. And then you've got the Nuggets, who I've already said, this team's already won a championship. So they already know what to do. And then just behind them, the other 2 teams, they could make second half runs. You got the Houston Rockets, you got the Lakers. Those are championship level teams if they could start playing consistent basketball here down the stretch in the second half. Then my fourth topic in the NBA second half storylines, I have a couple of teams that I'm going to name who could potentially make second half pushes. I'm going to choose 2 teams in the Eastern Conference and 2 teams in the Western Conference. Now, what I mean by second half pushes, I don't think these teams by any means are going to be like the number 1 overall seed. I just think they're teams that could potentially start making noise down the second half and maybe make some noise once we hit the playoffs, and maybe, win some first round matchup, and maybe knock out like a really good team that we're not expecting. That's just kind of what I'm seeing from these teams. I'm not expecting any championship level caliber predictions from them, or any type of number one seed, really not even cracking like the top 3 seeds, really. More just like teams that could make a run here that we might be talking about towards the end of the season. So let's start off with the Eastern Conference. I have the Toronto Raptors. And that's just because this team has actually been very streaky all season. They started off the season very good. And we're actually one of the top teams in the Eastern Conference for a good 3-4 weeks. Then they kind of fell off. You haven't really heard about them too much. But they've still been lingering. They still have had a few really solid winning streaks. And they do play really good basketball against really good teams. So I feel like they're a team you can't really count out. And plus, they've been there. And what I mean by been there is, they've been here all season long. They've been playing well for the most part. And I just kind of look at it. The Eastern Conference is very weak. So I kind of feel like the Toronto Raptors could be one of those silent teams that maybe makes a little bit of a run here and kind of makes some noise in the second half of the NBA season. And then my second team that I have in the Eastern Conference potentially making a second half push is the Charlotte Hornets. And that's just because they really actually they're coming off of like a 9-game winning streak right now. And that's just a big deal for them. They're actually playing really good basketball. It doesn't look like this is lucky stuff. It looks like actually LaMelo and Knipple are playing excellent basketball together. They are a really nice dynamic duo. And I kind of feel like, the Hornets have kind of made it known that they want to keep LaMelo. LaMelo is an exceptionally talented basketball player. But he's just on the Charlotte Hornets, and they're just not a very good team. And then he's also been injured as well over the last couple of seasons. So that kind of stuff has outshined him. But at the same time, now that, Con Knipple, he's a rookie, and he is having a fantastic year. You look at those two, now I'm not saying this is who they are, but this is who they remind me of, the Splash Brothers. When Steph Curry and Klay Thompson started clicking together, that's what these two are kind of looking like. So I'm looking at the Hornets, and I kind of feel like those two are going to be a nice little starting point for them for the future. And if they get some help in the middle there, maybe get some nice defensive help, this Charlotte Hornets team might be a team we're talking about for years to come. But for the second half, I actually wouldn't be shocked if this is a team that starts making noise, that actually makes a nice little run here in the second half to actually break into the playoffs. Not to play in, but maybe be that last team or second to last team to make the playoffs. Then in the Western Conference, the teams that I have selected to make a potential second half push, one is the Phoenix Suns, and they already kind of are there. Devin Booker's been having a great season, and he's really carried this team. But even beyond him, they're just playing really solid basketball. They're playing solid basketball against good teams as well. And they've just been hovering there all season. And I just feel like this is a team that could just really go off and potentially be one of those teams that makes a nice little second half run and maybe sneaks into the playoffs or just makes things more difficult for some other teams down the stretch. Then the other Western Conference team I have for a second half push here in the NBA is the Portland Trailblazers. They've actually been a pretty solid team this year. Not like a great team, but they've had some good games. And you got to remember, they're getting Damian Lillard back here. He's actually going to be participating in the All-Star game this weekend, the 3-point shootout, as a matter of fact. Not sure when he's making his debut for the season, but once they get him back, if they're getting a healthy Dame back, this could actually be a pretty solid team. Now, I'm not expecting any miracles at all from this team, but they've been pretty good this year. They've really made some waves, and I wouldn't be shocked if they end up being one of those teams that actually snags one of those last playoff teams or the last playoff spots towards the end of the season. And then my last topic for the NBA second half storylines I have is I've selected one team in each conference for a potential second half fall off. And these are teams that I look at that are playing really well right now, that have pretty much been in the conversation, but I look at them and there's some things I see about them that could potentially make them fall off. And one of them I don't see Actually, both of them, I feel like they could definitely make the play-in. One of them's definitely going to make the playoffs. It's just I feel like they totally booted their playoff, any of their chances at winning a championship. So let's start off with the Eastern Conference, and the team that I believe is going to have a second half fall off is the Cleveland Cavaliers. And I've already expressed why. James Harden, why? What a stupid trade. That was so dumb. You literally traded away a young Darius Garland for an old, washed up James Harden for a second half. This dude is historically, seriously, one of the worst playoff players ever. He's never been good once the playoffs roll around. Sure, yeah, he's pretty solid in the regular season. He's a good basketball player, but I don't look at James Harden as being one of those game breakers, game changers. As a matter of fact, he's usually a cancer to the team. That's why he's never won a championship, and he usually doesn't come close to winning a championship wherever he goes. So I don't think the Cavaliers are going to fall completely out of playoff contention with him. As a matter of fact, I feel like they're going to win games, of course, and probably, they're not going to be like a play-in team, but I feel like they're going to be a one-and-done team. And I just don't think James Harden gives you that extra edge. You should have kept Darius Garland. I would have absolutely had Darius Garland over James Harden 10 out of 10 times, but the Cavaliers wanted Harden, so there you go. And then the Western Conference team that I believe is going to have a second half fall off, and I feel like they're more going to go into the play-in category because they already are kind of at the bottom right now, and that's the Minnesota Timberwolves. They're too streaky, and they have to rely too much on Anthony Edwards. And when he's dropping 45 points, yeah, that's great. But if nobody else steps it up, then this team usually loses. And they're already at a disadvantage in the division that they're in, where they have the Oklahoma City Thunder and the Denver Nuggets, who are already playing better than them, look better than them, and are ranked, have better records than them. So it's just I look at the Timberwolves and I feel like they're a good team, but they're not that good. And I just feel like there's a lot of questions with them in so many categories, and they're just not that consistent on the defensive side of the ball. They're not that consistent really anywhere other than that Anthony Edwards is consistently playing well every single game. But like I said, even if he's dropping 45 points, somebody else on this team has to step up and be that dude to drop in at least 20 points and get some rebounds as well, because Anthony Edwards can't get all the wins. And so far, I just look at the Timberwolves, good team. Like I said, I don't think they're going to completely fall out of playoff contention, but I just feel like they could be one of those teams that really just doesn't have that great of a second half and then just kind of falls off once we hit the playoffs. All right, so like I said, pitchers and catchers reported this week to spring training. Some teams have already completely started spring training. So, there's a lot already going on. So let's get into my baseball 2026 season storylines. We have some interesting ones, but we also have a very interesting injury update, which is just weird. So, like I said, spring training started this week, and we had a particular injury, is this exact same injury to 3 key players who potentially may not be in the starting lineup for the first game of the season. So let's get it started with Corbin Carroll of the Arizona Diamondbacks. He broke his right hamate bone, and it's a bone in your hand. It's actually kind of in between your wrist and the pinky finger. So if you look at your wrist and you see that ball that you have there, it's kind of right above that. And so it's something that's really difficult. Once it breaks, you basically, in baseball, you just take it out. But if you really look at that area, you could see why that's a difficult thing to deal with, because that's basically, that's a huge part of the grip of the baseball bat. So Corbin Carroll, he broke his this week. He had his surgery. Now, he was already practicing yesterday after his surgery. So it's possible he might not miss any time once the regular season starts, but there's potential he could. Then New York Mets, Francisco Lindor, he broke his left hamate bone. So, and he had his surgery, and it's very possible he's going to miss the start of the season. And then Jackson Holliday with the Baltimore Orioles. He broke his right hamate bone, and he had his surgery, and it looks like he could potentially miss the start of the season as well. So I just found it very interesting that all three of them broke that exact same bone to start the season. It's just weird. And they're all three big players. I mean, all three of them are expected to have big seasons for their teams, play big roles for their teams. I mean, Carroll and Lindor already play big roles for their teams. Holiday, not so much. He still kind of has to work into his role, but I mean, he's expected to be a big part of his team. And so far, all three of them, their beginning of their season is in doubt. But if they miss the beginning of the season, it's not going to be more than a couple of weeks. So it's not like it's some debilitating thing. I just found it interesting that all three of them broke that same exact bone. Then the second 2026 season storyline I have for baseball is they are debuting the automatic strike zone this year, which means each team basically gets 2 challenges for the strike zone. They tested it last year in spring training, so we already kind of have seen it. And basically what it is if you believe it was a strike or if the umpire called the wrong call, only the pitcher, the catcher, and the manager can make the call. Nobody else on the team can make the challenge. Those are the only guys on the team who can. They get 2 challenges. If you fail the challenge, or if you don't win the challenge, you lose the challenge. If you do win the challenge, you keep the challenge. So if you challenge once and you lose it, then you only have 1 challenge left. If you challenge twice, if you challenge once and you win it, you still have 2 challenges to go. So you're good. But that's going to be debuting this year. I actually kind of liked it last year. At first, I was kind of like, really challenges in baseball, but it didn't actually take too long for them to make the to figure out the challenges. So it was pretty quick. I don't see an issue with this. This is actually, because I know a lot of most people's gripe with it is that they don't like the challenge. They feel like if it's an automatic strike zone, we should just have the automatic strike zone and let the computer figure it out. But that's what it's going to eventually lead to. But people don't understand. You have to test this stuff in smaller increments. I mean, you just look at the NFL and how instant replay has literally been evolving every single year since its inception. And now here we are it's basically perfected. It's not 100% perfected. Obviously, they still have some room, but they've basically had instant replay, at least 20 years now at this point. So you look at it and you go, every year they've been improving on that. So it's going to be the same with baseball, where it's going to be this year we get the 2 challenges. Then next year, maybe they'll start improving it in different ways, and then so on and so forth. So the complaints about it are amusing to me because I'm like, just watch what the NFL has done over the last 15, 20 years with their instant replay. It's going to be the same thing with this. But like I said, I like it. I mean, there are some umpires who have the worst fucking strike zone, and it really does ruin games. And none of us are watching a game for the umpires. So I'm happy with the automatic strike zone's debut this year, and we're going to get a whole season of it this year. All right, so my next topic with the 2026 season storylines from baseball. The New York Mets loaded up this year. They already had a pretty stacked roster, but that stacked roster didn't do shit for them last year. So they had to stack it up even more this year. They picked up one of the top free agents in baseball this year, Bo Bichette. They traded for Freddie Peralta. They picked up Luis Robert Jr. and Jorge Polanco. So they are really trying to go all in and get a World Series this year. But can the Mets finally do it? It's just like, with the Mets, they're just so laughable. You know, when the Dodgers load up, we're like, well, okay, here we go. They're probably winning the World Series again. When the Yankees load up, it's the same damn thing. When the Mets load up, it's like, are these guys going to make it through the season without getting injured? Or are they going to make it through the season and then not shit the bed at some point in the playoffs? I mean, that's really just what it is with the Mets. But they did load up. They do have an excellent roster. Even though Francisco Lindor could potentially start the season off on the injured list, They still got a lot of heavy hitters on this team. They still got a really solid starting pitching lineup. They actually picked up a lot of solid relief pitchers as well, because that was a big deal for them because they had so many injuries to the starting pitchers. So they did pick up quite a few solid relief pitchers as well along the way. But I mean, is this going to be the same old Mets this year, or are they actually going to be legit World Series competitors? We'll find out. Then the next topic I have for my 2026 MLB season storylines, the New York Yankees starting rotation. Is this going to be the best starting rotation in the league this year? Because they get Garrett Cole back. This is their Cy Young award-winning pitcher, and they're already going to be putting him in with another Cy Young award-winning pitcher, Max Fried, who had a phenomenal year last year, Carlos Rodon, who's also another phenomenal pitcher. They did get some bad news with Cam Schlittler yesterday. It looks like he's got some issues with some back spasms or something with his back, I believe. I don't think it's going to be anything debilitating, but you never know. And then Warren kind of looks like he's going to be the other guy who rounds out the starting five for the New York Yankees. But that core three with Cole, Fried, and Rodon, who is scoring on that? I mean, real talk. Fried, almost nobody could score on him last year. So, and Cole has always been very difficult to score on. So if these three guys, because Rodon's another killer as well, he's a little bit less inconsistent than than Cole and Fried, but he is. I think he's back to his old day. Because he had a couple years where he was marred by injuries, and so last year I kind of feel like that's why we feel like we saw the old Carlos Rodon back. And I feel like we still have the old Carlos Rodon. So I feel like those three are going to be lights out. And then if Schlittler continues what he did last year, that's four. And then Warren is another guy where he's pretty damn good. So I look at the Yankees starting rotation, and this could potentially be the best starting rotation in all of baseball because, I mean, even the Dodgers don't have that good of a starting rotation. I was really actually shocked when I looked at their starting lineup. I'm like, wow. You guys might actually get blown up, but you're going to be able to keep up with all your offense. But that's besides the point. But when I looked at everybody else's starting rotation, the Phillies, they've got some injuries to start the season off, and the Mets, it's a decent starting rotation, but it ain't that starting rotation. So there's a lot of teams that I don't think are going to be able to compete with this Yankees starting rotation, and they already have a solid batting order. So it's like, they're going to be scoring. Are you going to be able to score on them? And I think it's going to be very difficult if Cole, Fried, and Rodon, and then you add in Schlittler and Warren, if those two guys have a good season, that starting rotation for the Yankees is going to be lights out this year. And then rounding out my 2026 MLB season storylines, let's talk about those same old Dodgers. Now, I did say their starting rotation, kind of weak. And it might get blown up at times. The relief pitching is also, I don't know. Because they did actually lose some guys in free agency this year. But they picked up the biggest free agent in all of the land this year in Kyle Tucker. So they're going to have zero issues scoring runs. And that's going to be the thing with the Dodgers is they might give up a lot of runs, but they're going to be able to keep pace with you. So we've got Kyle Tucker, who just signed this year, added in with the MVP, Shohei Ohtani, another MVP, Freddie Freeman, and another MVP, Mookie Betts. And that's just the four MVPs on the one team. I mean, you got Teoscar Hernandez, who is still there. You've got, you basically have all their heavy hitters are still there, and you just added in Kyle Tucker along the way to the two-time defending World Series champions. So to me, this is the same old Dodgers. They got by with shitty pitching last year. So if they have shitty pitching this year, I'm pretty sure they're going to be able to get by with this stacked ass batting order that they added in with Kyle freaking Tucker, which just pissed me the fuck off. I'm honestly shocked they didn't get Bo Bichette too, but that's neither here nor there. But I'm expecting the Dodgers to still once again rule the West. Boo. All right, so let's move on to the NFL offseason storylines that I have listed for this year. And let's start off with number one. I think this is really going to be the number one storyline simply because he is a beast of a player. And if he moves or stays, they're getting a beast of a player. And that is Max Crosby, defensive end of the Las Vegas Raiders. Now, for the last couple of seasons, it sounded like he's wanted to get traded. But that's been the case with Myles Garrett with the Cleveland Browns. And guess what? He's still with the Cleveland Browns. I mean, it kind of feels like he's been wanting to trade for about 5 years, but he's still there. And it's been the same thing with Max Crosby. You know, he's a beast of a defensive lineman, and but he's on the Raiders. They are obviously in rebuilding mode, but it feels like they've been in rebuilding mode his entire career. And now he's been... I'd say not an asshole about this. You know, there's guys who want to force their way out of a team and they're just straight up dicks. They don't go to practice. They don't do this, that, and the other. I mean, they just signed a new coach, Clint Kubiak, earlier this week, and apparently Max Crosby was the first dude in the building to shake his hand and introduce himself. So obviously he's still a team player. But you just got to wonder, does this dude want out of here? And if he wants out of here, the Raiders could get a nice haul for him. That's for damn sure, because he is most certainly one of the top defensive players in the league. But where's he going to go? And there's a lot of teams that they're talking about he could potentially go to. But, man, whoever gets him, or if he stays with the Raiders, you're getting a damn good player. But if he goes somewhere, like I said, the Raiders could get a huge haul for him. They could most certainly get a bunch of draft capital out of him, or even players, etc. Because the Raiders are a team that need a lot of help. They don't just need a quarterback and life's good for them. No, they need like a whole offense. Outside of defensive end, they need help on the defensive line. They need help at linebacker. They need help in the secondary. I mean, real talk, the Raiders are the definition of rebuilding team. So you could take Max Crosby, maybe get a first-round pick, a second-round pick, and a couple of a player or two who you can add to the roster to start building this team, or you could just keep Max Crosby and start building around him. I don't think either one is a bad option for the Raiders because, like I said, I mean, Myles Garrett has been with the Browns, and he's at least been a bright spot for them his entire career. So Max Crosby could be the same thing for the Raiders, but I wouldn't be shocked if he ends up getting traded because, like I said, the Raiders could get a lot of capital for him to help this rebuilding team. But they could also use the services of Max Crosby. All right, so the second storyline I have for the NFL this offseason is Aaron Rodgers. Is he going to retire this year? Or is he going to go back to the Steelers? Or is he going to sign with another team? Now, I feel like if he comes back, it's only going to be with the Steelers. He did have a good time with the Steelers this year, but that was under Mike Tomlin. Now, they did sign Mike McCarthy this offseason as their coach. So he was with him in Green Bay. So he's already familiar with him. They didn't have really any issues as far as I'm aware. So it feels like they could work with each other. And Mike McCarthy has even said, of course, I'd love to have Aaron Rodgers back. But Aaron Rodgers is a 41-year-old quarterback. So he may want to retire or he may end up coming back. So that's going to be the storyline there. But I feel like it's only going to be with the Steelers if he comes back. I don't see it with anybody else. Just because he already, had a season under his belt with them, and maybe he'll want to come back. But also, a lot of these dudes, when they're on the cusp of retirement, it does take about a month or so to really figure out if you want to retire, if you don't want to retire, if you want to play another season. There's a lot of mitigating factors for them, but with Rodgers, I won't be surprised either way. I won't be surprised if he comes back and plays with the Steelers, but I also won't be surprised if he's content with leaving the game because, hey, this last season, at least it didn't end with the ruptured Achilles. I'm sure he was really happy that he went out this season actually having a good year and really playing solid football and not having to just leave because an injury forced him out of the game. He's basically going out on his own terms, if he wants to retire this year. But I'll be happy to see him come back as well because, I have no issues watching Aaron Rodgers play football. Just watching his accuracy is just amazing. So I really will not be upset if he comes back. But if he retires, I wouldn't blame him either. All right, so my third topic for the NFL offseason storylines is the quarterback carousel that we are going to have this year, beginning with Kyler Murray. Kyler Murray and the Arizona Cardinals look like they are headed for a divorce this year. It kind of felt like once he got injured this year, it kind of felt like actually in the offseason, they were kind of done with Kyler. It felt like this was his make or break year. And once he didn't really have that great of a year before he got injured. And then I feel like once he got injured, they were done with him. And because he actually was healthy enough to come back and play, but they decided to just bench him and put him on the IR and the rest of his season. And so I kind of feel like it's inevitable that Kyler Murray is going to be traded this year. It doesn't look like he's going to be released, but either way, I feel like Kyler Murray is going to be playing for another team. I don't know, because Kyler Murray, to me, he could end up being one of those quarterbacks who just was in a bad situation and it could just go on and have a good year. Or once if he gets in the right situation, he'll be better. But I just don't know what kind of a quarterback you're getting from Kyler Murray, because he's also one of those quarterbacks who's always injured as well. But it looks like he's definitely going to be on the move. Another quarterback who looks like he could potentially be on the move is going to be Kirk Cousins. Right now, he's the backup quarterback with the Atlanta Falcons. It's sounding like they're going to release him because he's due a bonus, I believe, in March at some point. So they're expected to release him before the bonus happens. And I've actually been reading that there's potential he could actually go back to the Minnesota Vikings, which actually would just be hilarious. And good at the same time, because he did fit in that system. And it's basically the same coach. He's got the same receivers, better running back, probably a better offensive line, a better defense. So, honestly, Kirk Cousins going back to the Vikings actually probably is not that bad. He is still an injury-prone quarterback, but I don't know. If you got J.J. McCarthy backing him up, hey, that might be fine. But it looks like Kirk Cousins is going to be available this offseason. I don't know if that matters or not. He may be a starter. He may not be a starter. He may just be the next journeyman backup, but I'm expecting Kirk Cousins to also be on the market here any day. And then another quarterback where it looks like the inevitable divorce is coming with him and his team is Tua Tagovailoa and the Miami Dolphins. I felt like this was another quarterback where it was his make or break year as well. If he didn't show out this year, I kind of felt like the Dolphins were going to move on regardless. I know he did sign a contract extension, but at this point, you just know NFL teams don't really care about that kind of shit. They're completely happy to eat all the money. It doesn't really fucking matter. And the Dolphins have always been a team like that. So I actually would not be shocked. I don't think they're going to get any trade value out of him. As a matter of fact, to me, Tua Tagovailoa is like the next journeyman backup quarterback where we see him go. Maybe he'll go be a backup for the New York Giants next year. And then maybe the following year, he's going to go back up for the Seattle Seahawks for a couple seasons. And then he'll be a backup with the Rams for another couple years. Or maybe he'll get like a starting chance. Because, like I said, the Cardinals are moving on. Maybe a team like the Cardinals will take a shot on him. Or maybe he'll go to a team like the Browns, who's always in quarterback disarray, and he'll get a shot there. But it's looking like, regardless, Tua Tagovailoa's time in Miami is completely done. We'll see if that ends up happening and where he ends up going. And then another quarterback who potentially could be back out there. I think this is more. The headlines made it seem more like it was realistic, but after I went and actually read what the player said, it seems like this is not going to happen. And that is Derek Carr. He retired last year because he ended up having to have shoulder surgery. He was going to end up missing the entire season anyways, so he decided to retire. Now, he did say he would come back and play for the right situation. Basically, he said he'll come back for a Super Bowl team. But that's not a guarantee. But basically, it's got to be the most perfect situation for him to come back. And that to me was, and first of all, he's still under, if he unretires, he's still under contract with the New Orleans Saints. I don't believe the New Orleans Saints are a Super Bowl bound team, at least at this point in time. They look like they're a team on the trajectory for a positive trajectory, but I wouldn't call them a Super Bowl bound team by any means. But so Derek Carr coming back, I think, is more of a long shot. I think that was more. He was asked the question, and he was like, "Okay, yeah, I would actually consider coming back if I could fit in the right situation." But That's what his commentary was. It wasn't, yeah, I'm interested in coming back. No, I don't think that was really even it. But who knows? Maybe we'll see Derek Carr back out there. Then the fourth NFL offseason storyline I have is Trey Hendrickson, the defensive end with the Cincinnati Bengals. He is probably going to be the biggest free agent. I guess it just depends on which way you look at it. I mean, technically, the biggest free agent out there is wide receiver George Pickens, but he's going to get franchised by the Cowboys. And not only is he going to get franchised, but if you're a Cowboys fan like I am, that's why I didn't even include George Pickens in this, because I just don't think it's going to be an actual storyline for Cowboys fans. But us Cowboys fans, we know the deal with Jerry Jones. Every year he needs a contract dispute to keep the drama going and to keep the media talking about the Cowboys. That's just what it always is. And I knew when we traded for George Pickens, he had 1 year left on his contract. And I was like, oh, here we go. Here is Jerry's next contract dispute. And he can actually carry this out for 2 years if he wants to. So I'm fully expecting George Pickens to get franchised. And then if we give him an extension, it's not going to be till like the beginning of the season, or he's going to play on the franchise tag this year. And then next year, we're going to have the same contract drama, and then he'll sign at the beginning of the season next year. So that's why George Pickens is not my top free agent this year, because he's signing with the Cowboys. Sorry, not sorry. So that's why Trey Hendrickson, to me, is the top free agent, because, you know, he is one of the top defensive ends in the league. And just because, you know, last year he didn't have that great of a season, and he definitely is an injury-prone guy, he's still a top producer. And if you get him in the game and he's healthy, he's definitely going to make a difference for any team. So I expect this guy to be right off the market as soon as free agency starts. As a matter of fact, once the negotiating period begins, I'm expecting tons of teams to be going after Trey Hendrickson. And good for him, because he's been trying to get the money. It's just the Bengals have not wanted to pay him. And they're just going to let him go. So Trey Hendrickson's probably going to be signing with somebody new this offseason, and look out for it, because he's probably going to be a big ass beast wherever he goes. And then the last NFL offseason storyline I have is, of course, the NFL draft. That's in April. I believe it's in Pittsburgh this year. You know, they've been moving the draft around every single year to different venues, and I think it's Pittsburgh. I'm not 100% sure on that, but I'm pretty sure it's the Pittsburgh Steelers draft area this year. So Mendoza is expected to be the overall selection. You know, the Raiders have the number 1 pick right now. If you're the Raiders, you got to keep that. I mean, they obviously could trade it and get a whole bunch of draft stock, but I just kind of feel like they need a quarterback. You might as well go after the top quarterback in the draft and hopefully build around him. Now, me personally, I don't know how I feel much about Mendoza's game transferring over to the NFL, especially if he goes to the Raiders. I don't know what kind of development he's going to have there. But I mean, that's just always the case really with the Raiders. But it's kind of looking like they are the number 1 overall pick. Mendoza's the number 1 ranked overall guy. He's been the number 1 ranked overall guy. So chances are Mendoza's going to be going to the Raiders, but there's a lot of good players out there this year in the draft. So, but not really at quarterback. It's not really going to be a quarterback year how it's been in the past. It's going to be one of those years where it's going to be more about all the other positions more so rather than quarterback. But Mendoza's obviously the dude, and he's probably going to be the number 1 overall pick with the Raiders. All right, so let's talk about some upcoming fights that we have coming up this year. Actually, ones I'm really excited about. I mean, sometimes with fights, you never know what's going to happen because sometimes just the matchups aren't that good, and you just never know what's going to happen. And sometimes they haven't really announced any at this point. Sometimes it's kind of disappointing at this point of year. But actually, I was able to find 5 solid fights that I am looking forward to. So let's begin with number 1. And this is actually one of my favorite boxers. I'm super excited because he unretired, because he actually retired a year or 2 ago, not long ago. He hasn't been retired a long time, but he's back, and it's motherfucking Tyson Fury. I love Tyson Fury. He is a beast motherfucker. He is going to be going up against, I'm sorry if I butcher this name, Arslanbek Makhmudov. I think that's how you pronounce his name. I don't know. I think we're all watching this matchup anyways for Tyson Fury anyways. It's not going to be for any like belt or anything like that. It's actually going to be on Netflix on April 11th. But I mean, I'm looking forward to it just because I like Tyson Fury. I was actually kind of upset when he retired because I knew he still had some fight in him. It's just when it comes to fighters, a lot of them retire, unretire, just because, I mean, if you really think about it, it takes a huge toll on their body. And then it also takes a lot of discipline and a lot of training and a lot of time. And when you're training in fighting, that's all you're doing. You're not spending time with your family. You're not like hanging out. You're not out partying. Literally, when you wake up in the morning and go to sleep at night, all day is fighting. So I see why a lot of them will retire and then unretire, because it's like their body has now healed completely. So it's like, oh, let me get back in the game. And I kind of feel like that's what happened with Tyson Fury here, because Fury he's a big ass motherfucker. So he's fighting big ass motherfuckers. But I think it's going to be a fun fight, and I'm just happy to see Tyson Fury back. So that's why that's my number one. Number two upcoming fight in 2026 I have is in the UFC. Israel Adesanya versus Joe Pyfer. That's coming up on March 28th for the middleweight bout here. And I just love Israel Adesanya. He's one of my favorite UFC fighters to watch. He's just such a fun all-around fighter. And I just think it's going to be a nice, fun fight between him and Pyfer in this middleweight bout. But I'm definitely looking forward to it, mostly just because I love Adesanya. Then at number three on my upcoming fights in 2026, shout out to the ladies in this one. We have us a great boxing matchup here between Clarissa Shields versus Franchon Cruz DeZern. This is going to be actually next weekend, February 26th, for Clarissa's heavyweight belt. Clarissa is actually undefeated. And if you do not, their first matchup was both of their debuts 3 years ago-ish. But their debut was against each other, and holy shit, if you haven't watched it, you can watch the whole fight on YouTube. These two bitches are so awesome. I mean, holy crap, especially Clarissa Shields, man. She packs a punch. So this is going to be a good one, especially because their last matchup was, like I said, I think it was 3 years ago. So it's been a few years for these two women to get going, especially Clarissa's the killer in women's boxing right now. So she's the top of the game. She, like I said, just a killer. And so I'm expecting this fight to be really fun to watch. And, you know, like I said, one thing I could tell everybody about fighting, this is something I've discussed with a lot of people who aren't really familiar with fighting. If there's one thing I could say about fighting, and it's both boxing and UFC, watch the women's fights. The women's fights are better than the men's fights. Don't get me wrong. Men's fights, great. The women, they give no fucks. They are here to kick your motherfucking ass, even if they're tired. Like, actually, in the first fight between Clarissa and Franchon, there is this one point in the fourth round where the two of them are so fucking tired, but they are still, every one of their punches still has power behind it. Where sometimes you could see the dudes, sometimes they're just like just kind of leaning up against each other. They're just out of breath. Not the women, man. The women just want to beat the fucking hell out of each other. And it goes for both boxing and UFC. So if you are not like a big fight fan and you just don't know, but you're interested in getting into it and you don't know where to start with the women. And I am not lying. Start with the women in the UFC. Start with the women in boxing, because they are badass motherfuckers. And I'm expecting Shields versus Cruz to be another badass bruiser fight between two heavyweights. Then at number 4 on my upcoming fights for 2026, this is a UFC fight between Max Holloway versus Charles Oliveira. This is going to be on March 7th for the lightweight matchup. And it's just, Oliveira is another guy kind of like Adesanya, where I really enjoy watching them because they have really good all-around game. Not just grappling, but they can also pack a punch as well. It's really actually fun to watch well-rounded fighters. And that's what I think we're going to get from this one between Holloway and Oliveira. And Holloway's he's a great fighter as well. It's just Oliveira, he's more my cup of tea. I just really like his fighting style. So I'm looking forward to that fight, mostly just because of him. And then rounding out the upcoming fights for 2026. We don't know who his opponent's going to be, but I had to talk about him, and that is my dude, Canelo Alvarez. Got to get that rah on there. But he's got his next fight coming up in September. We don't know who it's going to be. The reason why it's so far out there is because he had to have surgery, I think on his wrist. I can't remember what he had surgery on, but I know he did have to have, he's nursing an injury of some sort. So his next fight won't be till September. We don't know who it's going to be. It's probably going to be Labor Day weekend because that's usually what it is for him. Usually he fights in May for Cinco de Mayo, and then he usually fights in September for around Labor Day. But this year, of course, he's not going to be fighting on Cinco de Mayo because of this injury that he's nursing. But he going to be healthy by September. I don't care who he's fighting because you know me. I love me some Canelo. I will watch whoever he's going to fight. Unfortunately, it's not going to be Crawford. It doesn't look like we're going to get part 2 of that, at least yet. I kind of feel like Crawford's decided he's retired. I feel like he's done with it all, and I don't blame him. And he's also walking away. I actually listened to an interview with Crawford recently where he was talking about walking away with his health. And, shout out to him for that because he is right. Boxing is a motherfucker. You're getting punched in the face the whole freaking time, okay? And sorry, but their concussions and just the problems they're going to have throughout their life, if you're able to have the amazing career that Crawford had and walk away without any real debilitating issues with your cognitive skills and with your brain, I think that's a good idea to go ahead and step away. But hey, don't be shocked if that dude comes back, because look at Tyson Fury's back. He retired a year and a half, 2 years ago, and here he is back. So we could see Crawford back, and if we see Crawford back, it's got to be for Canelo versus Crawford. But it ain't coming up in September. At least it's not looking that way. But Canelo is going to be fighting somebody in September. So those are my upcoming fights for 2026. All right, y'all. I'd say enjoy the weekend of sports, but there really isn't much going on besides college basketball and the NBA All-Star game. So enjoy that if that's what you're into. But enjoy the light weekend of sports, and I will talk to you fools on Monday.